Today, I give you rather an impossible challenge. Take this perfectly 3D shaped Amazon box sitting on my coffee table. I'm gonna put a ball in there. Now what I want you to do is try your best to see the ball inside of the box. Now I know what you might be saying. Desmond, are you out of your mind? Well, actually, I'm just thinking inside of the box. But now you ask the question, how can we see inside the box? Well, it's time to learn about dimensions. Welcome back. It's been a while since we've talked, but I'm pretty sure the beginning of the video speaks for itself. This is Desmond, of course, in the flesh. And today, we're going to be taking a dive into dimensions. Dimensions. D-I-M-E-N-S-I-O-N-S. Dimensions. Now, this video is going to be a little bit more difficult to explain.
Oh, I best hope you didn't forget.
Forgot? About what?
What on planet Earth is that?
Oh, you're talking about my doggy socks. I believe the kids nowadays call stuff like this drip.
Well, you're all right about that. But, in case you have forgotten, I am Boris, another dimensional being born from Brahmanal. And I'm the strongest of my 4 brothers that await me as I leave this puny dimension and find my true destiny.
Another dimensional being born from Brahman Hall, and you have 3 other brothers. Boris, I don't even think you know what the 4th dimension looks like.
I could go to the 1 billionth dimension if I wanted to, but I just don't, because I just lack the energy right now, yeah. Well, I'm the greatest in the universe.
Alright. Here are dimensions. Before I can tell you about the higher dimensions, let alone comprehend them, we first gotta learn about the ones we already know. These first few are pretty basic, so this will be quick. Picture an infinitely small dot, just in the center of the screen. Things that exist in this dot cannot go up, down, left, or right. This is called the 0th dimension. Now let's see what happens when you make another point. With this, we have now added length. Things that exist here can now move left and right, from point A to point B. This is called the 1st dimension. Double the point again, we've now added height. Things that exist here can now move left, right, up, and down. This is called the 2nd dimension. I'm going to talk more about the 2nd dimension in a little bit, but let's move on. Doubling the points once more now gives us width. With those 3 directions, length, width, and height, we now have the 3rd dimension. This is the dimension we exist in every single day. Things in the 3rd dimension see an infinite layer of 2-dimensional planes. Things in the 2nd dimension see an infinite layer of 1-dimensional planes. And so on and so on. So we now know the basics of jumping to a different dimension by doubling the points. But what does the 4th dimension look like? Yeah, that's the first 3 dimensions. I know that was a lot to take in already, but...
Wait, what? I've never heard about this before. What are you talking about?
Oh, I think what you were talking about were different universes, not different dimensions. But there's only one universe, Boris.
This doesn't make any sense at all. I would have found them already. What's happening? Where am I?
Is everything alright?
Yes? Are you?
Alright then, this is the fourth dimension. Now it's time to see what happens when we double the point of a three-dimensional shape. We have now added another direction along with length, width, and height. Welcome to the fourth dimension. But this isn't a perfect representation of the fourth dimension since you're seeing it on a second dimensional screen, so it just looks like a bunch of disorganized lines. The only way we can get a better look at the fourth dimension is by this shape. This unworldly shape is called the tesseract, a fourth dimensional object that cannot exist in our third dimensional world. Although there is an equation for the tesseract, it's still impossible to create such a shape. The reason it's so hard to get a grasp of the tesseract, or the fourth dimension in fact, is because we are third dimensional beings, but can only see things in a second dimensional plane. Take this flipbook for example. When it's not moving, it looks like a two-dimensional surface. But now that when it starts to move, it looks like a three-dimensional surface. This is what I mean when I say that we live in an infinite layer of two-dimensional planes. There's a number of things that make us think that we see things in the third dimensional plane when it's really just a two-dimensional plane. What's the difference between these two? Now, one thing to obviously point out is that one is a circle and one is a sphere, but both of them are two-dimensional shapes. The only thing that makes the sphere different is the hue, lighting, and reflection. Here's another good example of this. A three-dimensional cube broken down makes a bunch of two-dimensional squares. When you break down a tesseract, you get cubes. This brings us back to my crazy challenge, trying to see the ball inside of the box. This here is similar. If you existed in the fourth dimension, you'd be able to see through walls, people, objects, pretty much anything. This also means you can see your past and your future. You'd be like this long snake of time. Now, is it possible to travel to higher dimensions? Well, yeah, it's pretty simple. All you have to do is add a new direction. Each dimension just doubles the last one. Here you have the fifth dimension. Then you have the sixth dimension. Then the seventh dimension. All this talk about dimensions makes me want to bring up something else that's very important. But wait, don't go anywhere. The fun is not over yet. Boris, fetch me a paper and a pencil.
On it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Boris. Alright, let's play a little game. Tell me, how can we draw a line on both sides of this paper without flipping it over or having to take the pencil off the paper onto the other side? I'll give you some time to think about it. I've got it. Take one side of your paper and flip it around. Then make it overlap with the other side of the paper. Get a piece of tape and tape the two pieces. And there you go.
That is the worst paper airplane I've ever seen in my entire life.
See, that's the thing, Boris. This is not a paper airplane. This is a Mobius strip.
Mobius strip? What the heck is a Mobius strip?
Glad you asked. The Mobius strip is a single-sided shape with no boundaries. This shape makes it possible for a line to go to both sides without leaving the paper. This is what a strip would look like on the Mobius strip. As you can see, you'd eventually find yourself on the other side of the paper without hitting any of the edges, and find yourself coming back to where you started. Since this shape doesn't exist in any environment we've seen, it's usually referred to as an impossible shape. Doubling the shape will give you the Klein bottle. It's impossible to accurately make this shape in the third dimension, just like the tesseract. Notice how the Klein bottle split in half makes two Mobius strips. When you try to cut the Mobius strip in half, it'll still be one whole shape since it doesn't touch the edges. This is what usually brings up the idea of time travel. It's not the time travel that you're probably thinking about, since time is relative, so it wouldn't be possible. But what I'm talking about the grandfather paradox. Suppose you traveled back to 1940 from the 2000s to kill your grandfather. If you were to do this, your mother would have never been born, and which means you wouldn't have been born either, which also means you wouldn't have been able to time travel to kill your grandfather, so they're still alive, thus giving us the grandfather paradox. In a way, it's sort of like an infinite loop, but the scenarios live on two different sides of the Mobius strip, even though there's only one side. This is as accurate as time travel gets according to the Mobius strip. I apologize if this is a little off-putting, but I've been fascinated with the Mobius strip for the longest time. It gives me this random, weird sense of hope that there can be something new made from the Mobius strip. It's like nothing I've ever seen before, even beyond dimensions, even adding a new direction to the dimension. It's like an infinite direction, the imaginary axis. Boris? Where did you go? Boris?
Desmond!
Desmond, can you hear me?
Why does it sound like Obama?
That's because I am. Desmond, you and Boris are needed for what's to come ahead. There's an impending threat, and we need you both on our side.
What do you need me for? What do you need us for?
With your knowledge and Boris' strength, we believe that we can take down this threat. I knew you'd talk about it one day. The imaginary axis.
What do I do?
All you have to do is stay safe. We will be needing Boris' assistance. He'll be back soon. I suggest you find a safe spot before they find you.